Okay.
Good morning, everyone. I will call this meeting to order of the May 21st, 2025 DeKalb County Commissioners. A little thing to start off with, I'm going to ask that everybody pull their mics up close, that everybody slows down a little bit. We have a hearing impaired member of the commissioners, and I want to be able to understand everything that transpires today. The last time we met, it went kind of quick, and it was really hard to follow. So I want to be able to follow this. Commissioners want to be able to follow this. So just please bear with us, and we'll get through it.
And before you start, I want to do one thing with the commissioners real quick. Sheriff Tom, well, actually, Chief Rice, he had let me know we have one Dodge Charger that is going to auction. So I just need you guys to approve Bill to sign the title real quick, and then my stuff's done.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Motion second on the floor. Additional comments? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Thank you.
Okay. Off we go.
Good morning. First, I want to do some introductions because we have the PHP team here just to support today, answer questions, as well as when we're talking about our plan design, just what they can administer. I thought it was important to have them here. So I don't know if you wanted to do some quick intros.
I'm John Court. I'm an account executive with PHP.
I'm Liz McClellan. I'm account manager with PHP.
Maggie Lucan, Director of TPA Reinsurance.
Okay.
Thank you. We have a
We could introduce if you'd like.
Yeah, that'd be great.
All right.
I'm Kellen Dooley, Commissioner.
Jim Miller, Commissioner.
Bill Hartman, Commissioner.
Susan Sleeper, Auditor.
Jody Wiedenhoff, Chief Deputy Auditor.
Andrew Cruz, County Attorney.
Dottie Miller, Director of HR.
Morgan Hensey, HR Assistant.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks. So first thing I wanted to look at were the premium equivalents, and that's kind of our quote budget. So that's that one pager, Apex benefits at the top, has the skinny column down the middle. We do have a couple of things still to solidify. We're working on potentially taking that one laser that had the conditional laser on the medications and either putting a cap on that or moving to a stop-loss company that removed the laser. So we're still working with a couple of things before we have final on that. But it's looking really good. It's going to be at least as good as what we voted on, if not a little bit better and a little bit less risky. And then we're also looking at a transplant policy, organ transplant policy, that is fully insured to plug into the self-funded plan, which in that case, if there was an organ transplant that happened on the plan, that fully insured piece would pay for the transplant. So again, it's just another piece that takes some of that large risk off of the table. We were not allowed to put that in place with Surest. There's a couple of TPAs that also don't allow that, but PHP does allow that to be plugged in. So we're looking at that. So these numbers are close to final. And when I'm looking at them, they're very positive, much more positive than the projection even that we looked at. So when we're looking at maximum liability or your worst case scenario, right now that's just about 4% over your current max liability. If you wanted to budget to midpoint or that 12.5%, that is actually a decrease of 4%. And then expected, which I don't think we're quite ready to move to expected yet, but that would be a 13% decrease. So once we finalize stop loss and also look at plugging in that organ transplant policy, I think we'll be in pretty good shape to potentially even hold our premium equivalents and not increase them at all. So some more to come on that, but these are kind of the base numbers to work off of once we put that contract into our data analytics team that came up with these numbers. I thought that was good news, that we could potentially not have to increase premium equivalents at all.
Are the health savings account, the HSA part, is that yet to come, the numbers?
So as far as if you did a dual option,
Yep.
so that would not actually change the premium equivalents. That could potentially change how you want to do contributions, but I don't expect that changing the PEs a lot, particularly in the first year when we're still looking at how the plan's going to run with these, quote, new plans. I wouldn't recommend changing PEs based on adding an HSA. But depending on how have you done HSAs in the past, Dottie, when you did have dual choice? Was the member allowed to choose whatever bank they wanted, or did you have a set bank?
At the time, we had a set bank.
Okay.
And everything, yeah, went to that one.
Okay, and that's usually the easiest way to do it. So if we do put a dual choice in place, we could definitely look at administering some HSAs.
We also had it was a tiered contribution. The commissioners would, and it was a dollar for dollar match up to a certain max for each of those. Say $700 a year for employee only. The employee, and it was dollar for dollar. So if the employee put in $50 that paycheck, the council or the county put in $50. We actually had a couple people who would put in their max right off the bat with their first paycheck of the new plan year, and county put in, boom, immediately. So they had that right there in their account. So, and that was something that for many years before I came on board in 2016, it was just simply a county contribution to the employee's health spending account. And so they had, the employee received half in April and half in October. There was no matching. And then it was decided that employees needed to have a little more skin in the game, and so that's when they came up with the match.
Thank you. So when we're looking at our employee contributions, this is the piece where we really need, your input on how we want to move forward with the different contribution strategies. But that is the very tiny print page. I'll also send this out in Excel after we make some decisions on how we want to move forward, so you can plug and play with it a little bit if you want to see what different scenarios look like. But the top scenario just has your employee contributions per month as is. That's that small box. Then the second larger box shows your current contributions with the wellness incentive for those that Morgan advised last time were already qualified. So about $60,000 that would be taken away from DeKalb County because of these premium savings if you put those in place on what your current employee contribution is. So if you want to raise the employee premium and then add the employee contribution, then we'd be looking at retaining some of those contribution dollars. That makes sense?
Which one is the current?
So current is the very small, that top box, DeKalb County current contributions. That's just showing what you're bringing in per month based on each tier. And then that second box is the scenario if those who are already qualified would get that premium discount off of the current employee premium.
Morgan, we had 117 people get in to do that.
Those are not what I show. Those are not what we are currently deducting.
These monthly contributions aren't what you currently have? Yeah.
Like for an employee only at this time, each paycheck is deducting is $40.12.
Is that how many pays do you have?
26.
Okay.
So
111.90.
it would be, so 86.92 or 86.93 per month is what the employee only is paying at this time.
Instead of the 100 and
What did you ask?
Is that, you're saying the $111 is not correct? Is that what you're saying?
That's not what we've been
Okay.
deducting.
111, you mean 134? Am I looking at the wrong one?
The 134 is the number of employees.
It says current,
Employee only, yeah.
which is up here.
I'm just getting in,
Oh, yeah, okay, yep.
You're saying that they don't need it.
I'm just gonna log in real quick and see like what these numbers were coming from.
Are all four of those wrong, Susan? Figuring it right now. Okay.
Slowly but surely here. Okay, yeah, I see 8693. Okay, I've got the current contribution, so I can update that. And that's
What do you have for the rest?
Hold on, what's the first one supposed to be? I have $111.93. What is it supposed to be?
8693.
86.93. Okay.
It looks like they had applied a 7% increase to the premium equivalent, so I'm not sure, or sorry, to the current contributions from the year prior. So I can see why they did that or if there was a communication. But I can update that very quickly.
Are you different on the other ones also? Because I am.
So I think I found your current, the 192.98, 174.73. Do you have them for the different tiers?
I have them by pay.
Yes, so the 4012, 8907, 8065.
I have 4012 employee only,
Yeah,
139.97 per pay for spouse, 115.21 for child, and 258.38 for family.
okay. Found that one too.
What does it change those numbers
Just a second.
Okay.
Right.
I'm gonna save this and resend it out. I know not everyone has their laptop in front of them, but, okay. You just want me to send it to you, Susan? Right. I just sent that. Possibly. Yeah, it's sent. Okay, no worries. I think they might have the wrong number of pays in here, so there might be a couple things that I need to tweak. So while we're waiting on, is that come through yet? All right, let me check that. Says it's sent, so, sure. While we're waiting on that piece, there was another piece that Bill and I heard you guys talking about for the wellness incentive. So the wellness incentive can only be applied to the employee who completes the activities in any given tier. So if there is an employee spouse tier and you're requiring the spouses to also complete the activities, they have to qualify for their own incentive rather than making two people qualify for the one. Does that make sense? So either the spouse will need to have an additional incentive, and it doesn't have to be 50, it can be any amount that you choose, it could be 25, 50, whatever you want, but you can't require the employee and the spouse to complete the activity to qualify for the same incentive that employee only qualifies for. So
From last year when we created the $50?
yes.
So does that apply for this coming plan year then?
So if you can either have the employee qualify and still do the 50 and waive the spouse having to participate, or you'll need to add their own incentive in.
That doesn't seem quite right, considering that it was a year ago that we created the plan that we currently have, where we had to have, if it was employee and spouse or employee and family, then the spouse had to complete it also for this plan year. So
We can't change it a week
midstream.
before.
Right, yeah.
So we can just add potentially work the employee contributions to reflect that. If you want to give the additional spouse, say, $25 discount off of the premiums. But we can set the premiums at whatever you need to get the dollar amount that you need from the county. And then the premium incentive can go on top of that.
The way that we had it, you guys, is that if we had employee and spouse, employee and family, employee only did a blood work and then did a wellness examination or whatever with their PCP. Because whenever we had a spouse on the plan, we had them also participate in order to receive a total $50 per pay reduction in their premium. So that kind of brings everybody up to speed. That's what we had planned last year during this time frame. So if we were to, it would actually be better, the employee and spouse, employee and family plan, it would actually be more like $75 off per pay if we were to do it that way, instead of just a flat 50.
And it was communicated per pay, not monthly?
That's what it was created last year.
It was $50 per pay.
Per pay.
That's what every employee knows.
Yeah. That's what we've been promoting for the last year.
All right.
Yeah.
And I'll talk to Sage about that and see what her thoughts are. So I think with the tweaks we need to make on the employee contribution piece, and probably another communication that needs to go out, and I already see that they're calculating at $50 per month. I think we should talk about plan design, and then once we have our premium equivalents solidified with the two pieces, stop loss, organ transplant, and our plan design solidified, then we can go back into employee contributions. Because I think there's a few pieces that need to come first there.
I don't know. Did we miss a federal change or something?
No, so
What
this
happened?
is something that our compliance team just brought to light. So I'll talk to Sage and see how she worked with him in the past on how she designed that program.
Okay.
And see if she has any insight on that piece.
Okay, all right.
Thank you, Susan. Appreciate that. So to discuss plan design, have you had a chance to look at the plan design that we laid out in the last meeting, which was a PPO plan design? And did anyone have any thoughts on that and how you would like to see the plans laid out?
We're not going on this page now.
Correct. So we're gonna shift to talking about plan design.
Okay.
So the plan design that we laid out in the previous meeting, was a $3,500 individual embedded deductible, $7,000 family deductible. And then the out-of-pocket was the same as the sheriff's plan, the $5,000, $10,000. So my initial thought, if you want to offer a dual option, is to have that similar or the same accumulators or the same deductible, 3,500, 7,000, and just have it reach, have the member reach the deductible and then go into the same copay plan design.
What page are you on?
So this was our previous meeting page. Do you have the, let's see, the big benefit renewal report? Yep, page 10. No, you're fine. Do you feel pretty confident that you want to do the dual option, or?
Thing. You could mention that, hadn't you, Kellen?
I didn't mention it. Can you explain a little bit more into it, I guess?
Yeah, absolutely. So on the PPO plan, which is what's laid out on page 10 here, all of the copays are immediately in effect. So if you go to the doctor day one, you're just paying your preventive visit, or sorry, your PCP visit, you're gonna pay $20 to go to the doctor, first day of the plan year. If you're on an HSA plan or high deductible health plan, you're not eligible for first dollar coverage until you reach your deductible. The only thing that's covered in full before the deductible is preventive care. Every dollar that you spend up until that deductible, just as an example, $3,500, is right out of your pocket. Once you reach the deductible, you go into the copay phase, like the PPO plan. So if you go to the doctor after you reach your deductible, it's a $20 copay.
You're looking at proposal 1 here then.
Yep, proposed one.
So what's this maximum out of pocket? That wouldn't have anything to do?
So once you hit your deductible and you go into copays, at that point, the copays are accumulating to your max out of pocket. So if you're an individual, you'll have another $1,500 to go until you reach that max out of pocket, and then you're done for the year.
So you'd have
At
deductible.
$5,000.
So deductible for a family would be $7,000, and then co-pays for the whole family would be another $3,000 until you're done paying.
Yep.
Correct.
The only caveat to that is this plan, proposed plan is embedded, which means even if you're on a family plan, if only one person has high costs, that person would be done at $3,500 individually and then go to that copay phase. Once they reach $5,000, that individual is done. So it's a protection within the plan that one person doesn't have to get all the way to that $7,000, $10,000.
But you have 2 people in a family of 4, it gets to it, and you're done.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yep, or any combination therein. So for simplicity's sake, a lot of times that's a great way to do a dual option, is keep the plan design the same. The only difference is on the high deductible plan, they have to reach the deductible before they go into the copay phase.
Then what would be the premiums on that? 'Cause
So because the employee has more skin in the game on a high deductible health plan, typically the premiums are less expensive, or there's an HSA contribution from the employer to kind of even it out a little bit. So that would be your lower premium plan. You could increase premiums on the PPO plan. You can play with that however you want.
Back in the day when we had the HSA and the PPO, it was about split evenly between our employees, whether or not, you know, if they were in one side or the other. The beauty, of course, of an HSA is if you are an employee or a family who doesn't go to the doctor very often, they, you know, say that the doctor charges $125 for a visit. With a PPO, the employee would go in and pay their copay, say $25. With an HSA, the employee's premium was lower. The county made a contribution along with the employee into their health savings account. Their premium was, like I said, the premium was lower. But when they go to the doctor, on those very few times that they did, they would probably pay $75 at the instead of that $25 copay. Now, they get the same, you know, the negotiated rate, it's same, you know, discounts or whatever that you might want to say, but when they go to the doctor, they pay more than the person with the PPO.
And yeah, when we do land on plan designs, another reason why I kind of wanted to push employee contributions back a little bit, we can have these plans laid out and our team can decide, you know, actuarial value between the two plans, which one's more valuable, and balance the contributions between the two plans.
So, real quick, if we do the high deductible plan, you said the employees pay the 100% out of pocket until they reach deductible or max?
Deductible.
Okay.
Yep.
Then the copay's the max.
Yep, the only way then to get to the max is to pay so many copays that you reach that maximum.
So copays would actually go toward your deductible?
They would not go towards your deductible, they go towards your maximum out of pocket.
Thank you for
You're welcome.
explaining that for that.
And then with the emergency room service, it's a $500 copay.
Then co-insurance, yep. So if you are still in your deductible phase where you haven't met it yet, you would pay the full cost of the ER visit until you reached the deductible. So after deductible is met, you spent your $3,500, then you go to the ER, that's when you get the $500 copay plus whatever co-insurance is left over. So in this case, this is a 100% plan, so there would be no co-insurance. So you just have your $500. For insight on the high deductible plan, the minimum embedded deductible for an HSA is $3,400. So this is a very rich HSA plan, if you will, if you looked at this plan design. It's just over the IRS minimum, which will keep us from probably having to change plan design next year.
They do seem to keep going up like by $50.
This is the first year
you know?
that they did. I was surprised.
All right, explain that again.
So the IRS piece?
Yes.
So the IRS says that a high deductible health plan has to have a high deductible. And they are saying that the minimum of a high deductible health plan on an embedded deductible is $3,400.
Okay, so we can't go lower than that no matter what we do.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yep, you nailed it. And if you land right on that IRS minimum, you typically have to change it every single year. So we try to change it enough that we have a couple years where we don't have to. So the PPO plan will feel very similar to the Surest plan that the employees have been on. And the high deductible plan just gives an option for people who want to spend less in premium. Maybe they don't have a lot of medical expenses, things like that.
So once the person has decided on one or the other, they can't not change within a year? Or
Correct. So they would have to have a qualifying life event to make a change mid-year, but that really isn't a plan design change. But then at open enrollment every year, they can change plans as they please.
Now, if they change from the high deductible to the other one, what happens to the health
So the health savings account is still owned by that employee, and they can spend it down still, so they can still utilize the funds. But once you switch to the PPO, you can no longer contribute per IRS. Yep.
And there are also stipulations that if you are over 65 and if you are on Medicare, then you cannot contribute to an HSA account. So we do have a few employees who are of a certain age.
And I think
But whether or not they are, you know,
of a certain age. So thoughts on the bones of how this plan is laid out? Dual option versus one option?
I mean, I'd like to give the option to
Yeah.
the other, some employees that might want to put in an HSA. Now, was there a max you can put in the HSA?
Yep. So there is an annual maximum for individual and family, and then Dottie kind of alluded to, if you're over 55, you can also contribute an additional amount. I'm just gonna look up what those, it's like 3850 or 1,000.
Now, how much do you have in your account? Say you work for the county for 30 years. You have $30,000.
There's no cap.
There's no
Yep.
cap to it, it's just max per year?
Yep.
And if somebody were to, yeah, they leave our employee, that is their money. It is their bank account. So it can go with them after they retire. They can use that for paying their premiums for their, you know, their Medicare. They can continue to use it until it's no longer there. They just cannot contribute anything more to it unless they actually have a high deductible health plan.
So the contribution max annually for an individual is $4,300, family $8,550, and then $1,000 catch-up contribution for over 55.
All right, slow down.
You're fine.
What's the family? Yeah.
It's $8,550,
$850.
$8,550, yep.
Yeah.
People listening at home, they want to write this stuff down.
All good?
And then 4,300 for single.
Yep. And 1,000 additional if you're over 55. There's no lifetime maximum. It's the employee's account, so if they leave, it goes with them. It's truly their money. They can use it for any qualified health expense, which includes dental and vision expenses. The HSA is really superior to the FSA in a lot of ways. And people will max these out annually and take them all the way to retirement. Once you reach retirement, you can use them for any purpose as long as you pay income taxes on the fund. So you can use it to get a TV. If you continue to use it for qualified medical expenses, even after retirement, it still will be tax-free.
So can you explain how that works when you put it in pre-tax? Is that correct?
Yep,
Explain
the
that real
funds go in pre-tax. They're debited from, or they're removed from employees' salaries pre-tax. So then when they go to pay taxes as well, it's lowered their adjusted gross income. So they'll pay taxes on a smaller portion of money, like when you contribute to your 401k pre-tax.
quick. Thank you.
Yep.
And you said, Dottie, in the past that we have contributed to this? You remember what it was?
Yeah, let's see, the last one was, $700 for an employee only. Was it $1,000 for employee and spouse, employee and children, and then maybe $1,200 for employee and family? I remember from, 2 years ago. But that, once again, that was dollar for dollar. So the county then contributed up to a max of $700 or $1,000 or $1,200.
And why did we get away from it 2 years ago?
Because we went to Surest and we had no deductible at all. So remember, a health savings account is only tied to a high deductible plan. We didn't have a high deductible plan, so we could no longer offer a health savings account. Now, the employees who had them, they continued to keep their health savings account, but because they didn't have one, at least through us, they couldn't contribute to that health savings account.
Questions?
Dottie, I assume that you like having the dual option?
Yes, I do like that. I'll say, when I came on board, we had a health savings account and a health reimbursement account. So we had an HSA, we had an HRA. Talk about confusion. So we ended up switching to PPO and an HSA, and we did that for several years until we went with Surest, when we no longer had the high deductible plan. It really is very nice for those employees who do not go to the doctor a lot, and they preferred paying less for a health, insurance premium, and then they got a little extra, because if they put in some money, the county put in some money. So they were saving that money over here in that little bank account. And then the people with the PPO who do go to the doctor often, and the families, it's the ear infection, it's the strep throat, it's the tonsils, it's all those things, they are paying that copay. And so it was really a great thing. We catered then, we were able to provide more of what our employees really craved, what they needed. So that was good. Now, I will say that going to the PPO totally, the people who didn't go to the doctor really didn't win, because if you don't go to the doctor, then you don't participate in that cheaper price at the doctor's office. So, and it's a little more individual for our employees without going wild and crazy with plan design. You offer two things and from which they can choose.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
From an administration point of view, wouldn't it be easier to just make the deductible the same as max out of pocket?
You could. There would not be any benefit to adding the copays. So the employee would just owe $5,000 and be done, owe $10,000 and be done. This gives employees a little bit of relief earlier in this plan design, where they hit their $3,500, then maybe they just have to go to the doctor. It's $20 versus the full cost.
Who keeps track of that when it gets to the 15? I mean, that's why I'm asking. I assumed it was somebody here. So.
Yep, so that's PHP. It's just like, Anthem or United Healthcare that is administering the plan. They're keeping track of individual accumulators as they go.
And employees will have access to our app as well, or our online portal, so they'll be able to go in and track that in real time as well. So
Okay.
it'll be right at their fingertips.
But it won't cost us any more administration fees to have you do that. Okay.
So if there's two options, the premium amounts will stay the same?
So we would want to set premiums accordingly. We wouldn't want to lose premium dollars by adding the HSA. So we would spread the premiums apart a little bit. So the PPO plan could cost a little more than what's current, and the HSA plan could cost a little less. So your employee has the choice to decide, do I want to pay a little more and get those copays right off the bat, first dollar coverage, or do I want to save money on premium and maybe roll the dice a little bit on whether I have a ton of medical expenses.
Susan, so how does this fit into the budget process? Are we looking at the same amount of money, or?
So it's all gonna depend on what you guys determine on how much the employee will pay, and then I have to go through and figure it, is basically the bottom line. So depending whether you guys determine whether they're gonna pay the current percent of what they pay, or whether you're gonna change it to like 90-10, like they pay 10, county pays 90, whatever percentage you decide, then it will filter through, and then I just have to figure it out.
So you can also tell us what you want to do. So if you say we don't want to spend any different than we're spending right now, let's say we hold our premium equivalents or our budget in place, and you say we want to add these incentives, wellness incentives, but not lose any money by doing so, we adjust those accordingly. So we can configure the employee contributions to work out the same, so you're not spending any differently as a county.
So as far, I mean, I have a huge spreadsheet already made. So as far as, now this is based on not if we change premiums for HSA, but if we go to the maximum claim premium with the COBRA, if we go to those amounts, then if nothing percentage-wise changes, obviously we'll be paying more than what we are because it went up. It just kind of all depends, because I have it figured with 10%, 15%, 20%, then I have them figured with if everybody actually did the wellness thing and $50 came out of there. It kind of depends what you guys want.
And if I remember right, isn't the percentage the employee's paying now is 3%? No,
So it's all different. So an employee only pays 7%.
7, okay.
Employee spouse, 11, employee child, 10, and family is 14%. And then the county obviously pays the rest.
Originally, when we started the self-insurance, I was campaigning for 70%. In my mind, maybe 25, 75. And looking at other companies and other percentages, seems to be more in line, 75, 25. To make this thing work, I think that's where we need to be. They've gotten a bargain in the last 2 years. We need to reclaim some of that and get these figures where they're equitable for both the taxpayer and the employees. I mean, I'm not going to rip off the taxpayers, so the employees got a Cadillac health insurance plan. Those days are over. And so, and they have to have more skin in the game. They have to take more responsibility for their health, not only their health, but the cost that they incur when they go out and have services performed. Get services as far as scans and echoes and EKGs, whatever. So that's my thought, 35, 25, 75. I think that's where it's got to be.
I think with that, though, we have to remember the sheriff's plan that was pushed so hard last year, like, tied our hands. Like, I mean, I realize we have to shop, but sometimes you can't shop. If you have a specific, like, I'm not going anywhere different for my cancer doctor, period. So I have to pay those increases, because, I mean, why would you change a cancer doctor every time you change a health and plan? You can't do that. So, I mean, that tied our hands a lot on what the employee could do and couldn't do, which plays into the cost of it.
And then we come back to the other basic thing, and that is health. Taking responsibilities for one's health.
I think having the dual plans helps with that. I mean, if you're healthy and you're not going to the doctor very much, you make the high deductible. You know what I mean? And you pay less than the premiums, and you bank up for when you do have an emergency with the HSA. And if you know your health isn't that great, then you'll probably take the PPO, you'll pay the higher premium to put a little bit more skin in the game. That's kind of what I thought the dual plan would work kind of better overall. Now, with this app you were talking about, yes, would they be able to shop around, I guess we'd say? Yes. And that, could you explain that app a little bit?
In fact, I believe the folders that you have has a sample of the flyer for the app. So yeah, 24/7 access to their health plan.
Which flyer are we looking at? Sorry.
Can you get closer to the microphone, please?
Yep, sorry about that.
No.
Is it this one that says 24/7 online tools?
That's the online portal that they'll have access to, and then there's one that also has this piece here
Okay.
that has a smartphone. So one of the aspects, and I think what you're asking, Commissioner, is about a provider finder and a cost estimator are the two aspects that will be available on there. So they'll have an opportunity to take a look at which providers fall into the PHP Freedom Network. And again, the PHP Freedom Network has what I would call all three major hospital systems in this area. So the IU Health, Parkview, as well as Lutheran. So I think you'd be hard pressed to find any PCP or facility that's not part of the PHP Freedom Network. But then from a cost estimator standpoint, it allows them to be good stewards for their own healthcare and go and find the high quality, low cost as well.
So if they do the HSA account or the high deductible, they have access to find I don't want to say the deals, but basically find.
Correct, they could do some shopping.
Shopping around for labs and stuff like that. Okay, thank you.
We had an app with Surest, and they had, the way that it worked is the higher quality doctors by Leapfrog, I think. That was the company that, the organization that scored the doctors. So if you had a high quality doctor, you paid less for going to the doctor. Now, if the scores were lower, because that meant, perhaps the outcomes from that particular doctor weren't as stellar as they could have been, then you paid more to go there. So they try to guide you to that higher quality and lower cost. I think our employees had a little bit of an issue because they want to go to whom they want to go to. We don't put a price on being a consumer of our health care like we do when we go to shop for a car or go to the grocery store. It's just that way. And as somebody just recently told me, you're at your doctor's office and your doctor says, well, I'm going to write you this and you need to go to the, hospital down the hallway to get your X whatever done. You're going to do it because your doctor said so. You're not going to sit there and go, oh, wait a minute, the app says that I really could go 5 miles down the road, and that's something that we need to incentivize. We need to guide our employees to think of this because it's coming out of their pocket.
And if I could build upon that, Dottie, there's a third aspect they look at too, and that's timing. So if one hospital system, I'm not able to get in and have that surgery for another 3 months, but say another particular one, I can get in the next 2 weeks. Sometimes it does come down to timing as well as high quality, low cost. The other aspect that PHP is committed to in conjunction with Apex and working with HR is helping in the communication piece of that. So we recognize you come in typically for open enrollment as an employee, you think about benefits for that 30, 35 minutes that you're in that meeting, you walk out and don't think about it again. So one of the things that we've got built into our quarterly communications that Liz will really be driving is making sure that employees have access to training on the apps and onto that web portal so they can see how it's used on a regular basis. So we'll make that available. We can do, again, depending on your internet, if we can attach videos or communications to that as well. We have an individual who actually walks through how to utilize these tools. So if employees are having questions 3 months after that open enrollment because Junior just fell off the monkey bars and broke his arm, and how do we figure out what the best way to go and do that is?
That is so funny. That is so funny.
My child just
fell off the
did
monkey
that.
bars and broke her arm. She literally.
Oh, wow.
Just, Susan knows that process.
Okay.
Too soon, John.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'll work on my examples. But so you've got access to that information when it's timely, not necessarily when it's just being pushed by the county.
I have a question. Can co-pays be set up by percentage instead of fixed amounts?
So that would essentially, if you wanted to just do co-insurance, is kind of what I'm hearing. You say rather than setting up a copay, you could set up co-insurance only where, you're paying a percentage. It's not common to do co-insurance for primary care specialists, et cetera. You're usually trying to drive utilization towards those lower cost doctors, which is why we're putting a lower copay on those. Like a $500 copay for the ER is set at that level so that you're truly only going to the ER in an emergency.
Mm-hmm. But you could do the same thing basically with percentage.
Most things at urgent care, yeah, you absolutely could.
Variable percentage.
Yep. And ER, I will say, coinsurance is a typical way, deductible and coinsurance is a typical way to do ER, or not typical, but it's done.
Anything else? Questions, comments?
How come is a $500 copay for the high deductible and only $300 copay for the PPO?
So that was this second one is are you looking at this column? That was just the Anthem proposal, so you can cross that out.
Okay.
We're just looking at the proposed one there. You can set any of these copays at whatever you want. This design I took from Surest and kind of whittled it down to what made sense to me, because the Surest was a range. Like, for example, primary care, $20, that's where we want people to think to go first. Urgent care, a little bit more expensive, a little more skin in the game, but still a good option over the ER.
And unfortunately, here in DeKalb, depending on what part of the county in which you live, urgent care is at a premium. And your only choice, if you are in an urgent need, would be the ER here at DeKalb. But we have employees that have chosen, we've asked for reports in previous years to take a look at just, how can we take a look at how many of our members are using the ER for a doctor. They may not have a PCP, and so anytime that they, whatever, they're not using it for an actual emergency. But who are we to say what they perceive as an emergency?
Absolutely. You don't want to make that determination. And the current Surest copay is $500 for ER, so that's no change from what it is current. What I'd love to do is kind of land on our plan design. We can obviously make tweaks later, maybe a copay here, decision about things like that. But then I can really model out a bunch of different contribution scenarios per plan by percentage, if you'd like to see that, where you can play with the different percentages. I will tell you right now, with your percentage of employee contribution being around 7 for an employee only and up to 14% for a family, that a 70-30 split would be pretty big jump, but we can look at what the impact of that is with those wellness contributions too, to see or with the wellness dollars that employees are receiving, to see exactly what people are going to land on if they are doing the wellness activities that we put in place.
Well, 25% just seems like a tremendous increase from where they are right now. Although we have to be cognizant of the taxpayers in the county and do right by everybody, I would hate to do 25% myself. I don't mind going to 12% seems more reasonable. Make things work for both. That's just my thought.
What are the percentages again, Susan, that you said?
7, 11, 10, 14.
Employee only.
Employee only, they're paying 7.
The 7% go to 12%. Go ahead.
The
Employees.
this Cobra column, does that contain all the fees?
So the Cobra premium, you would literally only use for Cobra. That middle column that has the premium equivalent, that has everything rolled up into it. Fixed cost claims, is that what you're asking?
Yeah, but just a couple years ago, I didn't use the Cobra rates, and then everybody had a fit because they told me I used the wrong ones.
Oh, yeah, you don't need to use the Cobra rates.
Yeah, we don't pay Cobra anyway. That Cobra, that is for those employees who leave us who would want to take our, stay on our insurance for a set amount of time per the federal government's, regulations. And they pay what we,
Full
as a
premium.
county, pay. They pay the full price instead of the 7% that they had been paying. And then there's a bit of an administrative fee that goes
Yep,
into
the
that.
2% admin fee just goes to whoever your COBRA provider is to administer
So all the
COBRA.
fees are in that middle part.
Yep,
So hold that thought a minute, because I was told I had to use that 2 years ago, so let me redo my figures here.
you're fine. Employee spouse is 11%. 10 is, no, that's employee child, 10%. And, yep, it's 10%.
Family is 14%.
Family is 14%.
What do you think, Ellen, percentage-wise?
Waiting for Susan to give us the percentage. We also have the HSA that the percentage would be a little bit less because they're going to be taking more pay out of their, you know what I mean? They're going to be less premiums on it because they're going to be eating the first, if we decide on 3,500 as deductible, they'd actually eat the first $5,000, they'd be paying for it too. They'd have a less premium percentage on it than if you went for the PPO, which is where we would probably want more of the higher percentage because we'd be paying more out of it.
Exactly.
So we'd have two different plans we have to set the percentages for. Go ahead, Susan.
So right now, the
Employee only.
plan ending, in total, the county is paying just under $4,467,000 with those percentages that I told you. So,
The 7, 11, 14, and 10?
yes.
Yep.
So if nothing changes with those percentages before the wellness, the county would go, it would go up to 4.658. And then obviously higher if everybody does the wellness. So if you-
Wellness is done next week, right? End of the month. The wellness is done next week, end of the month?
Yeah, they have until the 31st.
Thank you.
So if you went to a 15% employee on all plans, like 15, no matter which plan it is, the, before the wellness, the county portion would be 4.389. If everybody did the wellness and you took the $50 off all that, then the county would be 4.671.
0.671?
I'm rounding those up, so
Sure. At 15%?
15%.
For all employees at wellness?
yeah, that's if everybody, that's the only way I can do it.
Yeah.
Easy enough. If you do 20% across the board for all four plans, before wellness, county is at 4.135. After wellness, the county would be at 4.413. Now, those are based on this and not HSA differences. But as a whole, based on the maximum premiums on here.
If you did want to go to a split of percentage, you could always set the percentage at one of the plans, for example, the HSA plan, and then any additional, if they want to buy up to the PPO, they pay the additional, the difference between the premium of the HSA and the PPO. So basically, they're paying for that richer coverage. So the percentages will be different on the PPO plan, but they'll be consistent on the HSA plan. But I would like to bring several scenarios for you to look at after we kind of land on plan design.
What do you need from us today?
To decide on how we want to move forward with the plans. Are we doing a single option, dual option? And then if we approve this design that's laid out, or if you want to make any significant changes.
This proposed one is the one you want for the high deductible.
It would actually be the same for the PPO and the high deductible health plan. The only difference would be on the high deductible health plan, they have to meet the deductible before they go into the copays. Whereas the PPO plan, they'll be going into the copay phase right away.
Up to 5,000, then after that, everything's covered?
Up to, for which one? For the HSA or the?
Yeah, PPO.
The PPO, so yep, they would pay the copays up to exactly the max out of pocket. Or if they were in a deductible and co-insurance type procedure, like a surgery, they would pay just like on an HSA where they're paying 100% of the service until they reach their deductible. Then again, going into co-insurance, which is 100%, so that would be covered in full.
The only difference between the PPO and the HDHP is you just get rid of the deductible here.
The deductible stays, you get rid of the PPO, or of the copays until you reach the deductible. Then they come back until you get
For the
to
high
max
deductible,
out.
yes.
Yep.
But for the PPO, you don't have anything to do with the deductible, just go right down to the max pocket.
Not necessarily. There are still some services that go right into deductible and co-insurance, such as like an outpatient procedure, inpatient stay at a hospital, things like that. But the services that you're kind of in and out for every day, those go into copays right away.
Okay. We don't determine percentages and stuff yet until we get this part figured out, correct?
For the contributions?
Yes.
Yeah,
That's not today.
correct. We'll get, once we have two plan designs or one plan design, I'll provide several scenarios to you to look at with the wellness incentives and percentages and all that jazz.
I think having two plans is, I think, a good option for the county. I think people that, employees that don't use the doctors of arts, they just do the preventative care and are healthier, I think it would be a good idea for them. They can start saving up for other procedures later on. And then the ones that are needing coverage immediately can put a little more skin in the game by doing the PPO and paying a little higher premiums.
Totally agree.
I agree. Consensus on that, I believe, is all we need at the moment.
Now, are we talking about co-pays or anything in that next one?
As long as you're comfortable with these copays that are laid out, then this can be approved as is.
You guys good with co-pays that are on there? No, you had a question about percentages of the copay. So,
I still think it should be percentage, but I don't know if that's doable.
It's just complicated for the member as well as the administrator. They won't have any idea how much they're going to owe for any given service until after it's already been billed. So if you go to the doctor, and you're paying just co-insurance, you don't know what you're paying until after the fact. So if I know my primary care physician is going to cost me $20, I'm going to go that route because it's the cheapest and, the best overall for me. So this is really designed to drive utilization to the right places.
I'm thinking maybe a little higher copay than if they're fixed.
for which ones? For which ones?
Copay on the,
So pharmacy, I did not change from Surest plan, so those are the same. The primary care physician was a range of 15 to 100 with the Surest plan. I landed on 20, again, because that is where we want to drive utilization. I would not recommend making that much higher. I don't know what y'all's thoughts are, but when we're really trying to get people to go to their primary care doctor, develop that relationship. It's the lowest cost option. I like to keep that copay as low as possible.
You see what she's looking at?
On office visit, kind of in the middle there, PCP,
On that packet.
currently set at 20.
Proposal 1, all those copays is what she's talking about, the third column.
I think in today's world, we could go to 30.
For the PCP.
That's my opinion.
What about the specialty care provider?
Probably 70.
I feel more comfortable with 60, but what do you think, Jim? I just feel like we went up 10 for each one. I'm fine with that. That's how I was looking at it.
That's fine. We can go up.
Yeah. I'll go with that.
So the emergency room, I know I'm hammering on that one a little bit here. So if I go to the doctor, say I get in a car accident, I go to the emergency room.
Yep.
And I'm single, let's just say, I'm paying $3,500.
Yep.
Then I'm paying another $1,500, basically out of pocket till the $5,000 before my insurance kicks in.
So if you are paying up to that $3,500, you're on the high deductible plan, then at that point, you go to your co-insurance, which is 100%, so you're actually done at the $3,500 in that scenario.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, the $500 copay doesn't really,
It would only apply, let's say you've spent $3,600 and now you're going to the ER, you'll owe $500 now for the copay only. So now you'll be up to overall spend $4,100 towards your max out of pocket.
Okay, wait, you spend $3,500 and you pay nothing, but if you pay $100 more, $3,600, now you pay another $500?
So that's if you have an additional visit after you meet your deductible.
Oh.
Yeah, not in the same visit.
I mean, I know what we're trying to do is make people not use the emergency room as their doctor. But I also don't want people that are having an actual emergency not go to the emergency room because they don't want to pay the $3,500 off the start.
Yeah.
So, but,
On the PPO plan, it's $500 right off the bat.
and then what, then from there,
So,
just $500 if they go?
yep, every time, $500.
PPO, okay,
Until they meet their maximum?
Yep, max out of pocket.
per visit.
Maximum out of pocket. So like for me, I would have to meet $10,000. And then I would be covered. Otherwise, I'd be
No,
paying.
Well,
if you as an
five,
individual,
yeah.
it'd be 5.
Yes, it's, the out of pocket's embedded as well.
Yes.
Yep.
But if I go to the ER
My
once, it's
family.
$500. If I go a second time, it's another $500.
Yep.
Up until we get to the 5,000, okay,
Precisely.
okay. I was understanding that.
Yeah,
Now, the
so-
HSA will help cover the 3,500 on it, so,
Yeah, so the HSA, you would pay the full cost of the visit up until your
and that's what the
deductible.
HSA is for, okay.
Exactly.
Is there any
When I was
provision
saying
in
me, I
there?
meant I have family.
I know what you mean. I just want to clarify for anybody else.
Yeah. Is there any provision in there that if it turns into a hospital stay thereafter?
That's
then-
yeah, you got it. That's a plan design question, and you can absolutely set it up. So if it does turn into a hospital stay, if they are admitted to the hospital, you can waive the copay. Because then they'll be paying the inpatient visit amount. Yep. Thank you, Dottie. So you're not just racking up the costs there.
So, I'm okay with the emergency room service copay, if you guys are fine with that, 500. Okay. I'm just going down to each column, make it easier for us. And then the urgent care, $50 copay. Next line down.
Oh, here, okay.
Yeah, I'm just going down right down this.
Oh, okay, all right,
Yep.
that's fine.
Are you following me too, Bill? Okay,
Yeah.
I'm okay with that.
Yep.
Then, do we want the deductible to, I'm going back up to the top. Do we want the deductible to stay at 3,500? I mean, it has to stay there. I mean, that's the lowest we can get. I think that's a good starting point. We can see how it goes for a year, and then if we need to play around with it.
We could do that for a year.
And then we play around with it, see how that kind of looks.
Yeah.
Okay. And the family, the minimum 7, I'm assuming, for family too?
Yeah, 7,000, yep.
Okay. Max out of pocket, I'm okay with, if you guys are okay with it.
If that's no change from current
And now we go down to,
pharmacy.
just down to medications.
So these I just matched from the current plan design, 10 for generics or tier 1, 60 for tier 2, which is typically preferred brand, 90 for tier 3, which is typically non-preferred brand, and then specialty 250.
What's the preferred?
And that's what we currently have.
Yep. The surest is a range from 240 to 300, so I just kind of landed at 250.
We were really high on prescription.
Yes. Could you explain the difference between preferred brand and non-preferred brand?
Yeah,
Everybody's watching
so, yeah, absolutely. So the pharmacy benefit manager negotiates with the different manufacturers, and the best price brand name drugs fall into preferred brand. It could be higher rebates, it could be the lowest net cost, which means the cost with rebates included, and that is where they make the determination on what's a preferred brand and a non-preferred brand. What is the best net cost and the best amount of rebates and money that's coming back to the health plan.
So for every medication, so if I go and pick up my prescription, and I have 3 prescriptions, if generic, I'm paying $30.
Yep, exactly.
And is that per month? Is that a 30-day
Per fill, yeah. That is a 30-day supply, yes. There's also a mail order tier down at the bottom, which is just a multiple of 2.5, so you're getting a little bit of a price break. The only difference is specialty typically stays specialty. You can really only get a month's supply of specialty anyway, so that's why that doesn't change.
So if these are current and I don't mail order, how am I getting some of my 90 days for $25?
So that is also a plan design item. If you want a 90-day supply to be a discount, you can make it a multiple of the current 30-day. You can say it's, 2.5 like we did for
So
mail
we
order.
might currently have that?
Yeah, absolutely. Are you currently getting 90-day fills at the pharmacy? So yes, we could continue that on in the plan design. I'll make a note to do 90-day retail. Are you thinking the same multiple?
I guess I don't even really know what we have. I only personally know I got a 90-day for $25, and I didn't see that.
Then, yeah, it
in
sounds
here,
like
so I
that's
didn't
what's
know.
currently being administered is the 2.5 multiple, so you get like a half month free, if you will,
Got it.
for getting the 90-day retail. If you have maintenance drugs, it's really nice to be able to get the 90-day. The one thing I would recommend not doing 90 days if you have really high turnover and employees are coming in and out and they're getting their 90 days when they've worked here for 2 weeks and then leaving. But if you have pretty consistent employment, then 90-day retail is a nice feature. Yep,
No.
that's true, but you would want to not administer it where they were able to get the 90 days. Yeah, you can say only 30 days at retail if you choose.
Getting on the RX then.
Comfortable as is?
You okay with the numbers we have now? Is that what you just said?
Yeah, are you okay with it? I'm not, actually.
What's your thoughts?
Well, like I say, we really went in the hole on that last year. So I can't see any way out of not increasing it. Somewhat anyway. Doesn't have to be big, but
Problem I have with increasing on the medications is people can't afford it, will stop taking it, then they're gonna have health problems and where they paid on the back end, going for hospitals, ERs and all that stuff, which is way more expensive for us. But I also understand that the RX was a big chunk of our cost last year. So I'm not a big fan of increasing it. That's why I was trying, the preferred, non-preferred, generic.
The note I'll make about pharmacy is that we're moving to a pharmacy benefit manager where Apex has negotiated the contracts. So they're stronger contracts than what we were with at Optum because we were forced to, that was their only pharmacy benefit manager was Surest, where they controlled that contract. This is one that we've negotiated. So the net cost is gonna be lower for drugs, and we'll also have stronger rebates that are coming back to the plan. And remember last meeting, we talked about those rebates that'll be coming back. So we should see savings, or we will see savings from our current utilization moving to this pharmacy benefit manager where we have a strong negotiated contract in place. So we'll see some savings from that off the
That was
bat.
another thing that our hands were tied in, we couldn't do that.
Exactly.
I think we, go ahead, Jim.
So the rebate, does that go back to the employee or to the county?
It goes to the county. But we've also negotiated the prices, or the team has negotiated the prices on the drugs as well, so they'll see that savings as well. It won't just go to the county. They'll see it at the point of sale. If they're on the high deductible health plan, if they're on the PPO, it's not gonna change because they're paying a copay. But those savings will come right back to the health plan. So when we're looking next year at premium equivalents, we're receiving more rebates, we'll be able to potentially, hold premium equivalents the same when we're in a market of trend of 7 to 13%, things like that.
I think since we're probably going to have to increase the premiums a little bit, I think we should not increase the drugs. RX this time, see how the rebates come back to us, how that kind of all plays itself out, and then look at it again next year. Since I don't want to hit them on the premiums and then also hit them on the medications.
Okay.
So
I think we also have to remember that, and I realize this isn't your guys' wheelhouse, but we also have to remember that the employees might not be able to even get an increase in wages this year with budget because of legislation and all the changes. We don't know what all that's gonna do yet. So if they don't get anything, and with the changes, they're already going backwards. So I realize that's not your house and it's not of anybody's control, but we do have lots of long-term employees and some of it does hit hard.
At the same time, the county's in the same situation.
I get it, I'm not saying that we
We're not
aren't.
gonna get an increase, so we gotta live with what we,
Right, and they're gonna get an increase, but
that's why I think I think leaving the medications as is right now is probably the best way to go.
I can go with that. We'll see how the rebates work out.
Yeah,
and allowing the 90-day retail.
yes, I think the 90-day retail is fine with me. We don't have a whole lot of turnover. I mean, we don't have a lot of people. If you take out Sunny Meadows,
Well, they don't get, I mean, you have to be here for a month before you get your insurance
yeah,
anyways.
so I'm not too concerned about that. I think the 90-day refill is a good idea. And I think we just see how the deduction, see how that all works itself out this year.
Okay.
We were stuck with, what was it, Optimum?
Did what?
We were stuck with Optimum last year.
Yes, the Surest uses their own pharmacy benefit
I
manager.
I think we were kind of getting
Yep.
on that one. So I said we leave the copay along, and then the mail order prescriptions I'm fine with too, leaving it the same.
Okay, that, Jim?
Yeah,
Okay,
I agree, yes.
okay.
I don't want to increase both of them.
yeah.
Okay.
I think and then we can see how the HSA works out and all that stuff too. It can all be, we're kind of doing a whole new plan here.
So the only changes I heard are PCP to 30 from 20 and specialty to 60. Okay, everything else is approved as is. Dual option, and then I added a note to make sure we allow 90-day retail when we implement with the pharmacy benefit manager. Okay. When we're looking at contribution strategy, do you want me to leave a field for a potential HSA contribution?
Yes.
Okay. All right, I've got a lot of,
I'd like to have the
Yes.
the high deductible with the HSA and then the other plan that you had, the PPO plan.
okay,
So that the employees can decide which way they want to go with it and stuff like that.
perfect.
I know with some employees, and I know this happened at the hospital, is that you'd have knee surgery, they would save in the HSA up until they went and got their knee surgery, so it'll offset some of that stuff.
Yep, absolutely.
And if they use the app, they could go to the low-cost provider
That's right.
and save themselves even more money.
There you go. Okay, do we need to make a vote on plan design?
Andrew, do we need to, or do we just make it sense?
It probably wouldn't hurt to make a vote, since you're actually making a decision here. I think it would be a good
I
idea
would
to have a
make-
motion and a vote.
You accepting motions right now? I'll make the motion to have Apex create 2 plans, a high deductible with an HSA plan with and then a PPO using the numbers that we discussed in column 3 and proposed 1, freedom within core combination.
I will second that motion.
A motion and a second on the floor. Additional comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
So be thinking about what the county's contributions to the health savings accounts will be. As I mentioned, you know, we had, at one point in time, it was simply county donated to the, you know, contributed to the HSA. And then we moved to more skin in the game, where the employee contributed and the county contributed, and it was dollar for dollar. And so when we started that, it was $600 for the employee only, and then we did bump it up to $700 for employee only. As I said, it was dollar for dollar. But that's something for us to think about, you know, assisting with this health savings account and the high deductible.
We'll have to include the council in that conversation, so.
Rick, you had a comment?
Just a couple of comments from the council. I just turned it on. Number one, I think that Bill made a comment last meeting or the meeting before about the employees
Bill from Apex.
needing, No. Bill Hartman made a statement about the employees needing to get more skin in the game and more involved in improving their health care. Apex, Bill, made a comment about DeKalb County having some of the worst numbers from all of their clients in the county or city customers. I've been involved in this now for 10 years from the council and for 10 years prior to that as a hospital employee that did wellness. We need to figure out in DeKalb County, for DeKalb County's employees, why are we in that state? Is it our age? Is it our basic overall health? Is it surgeries? Is it medical things like diabetes? We need to do a deep dive into that because these things just keep going up farther and farther and farther every year. And we got ourselves in trouble some years ago with our self-insured plan because we didn't pay attention. Now we are. We're doing a much better job, but we need to stop this somehow, or at least slow it down.
Absolutely.
Secondly, some of our best experience has been with PHP, and I am very glad to see PHP coming back. And I'm glad to hear that you've got this app, because the general public or the general employee is not going to make a lot of phone calls to a lot of different doctors or hospitals or whatever looking for the better price. So if you've got an app that will help them do that, that's good.
Yeah.
But I just want to encourage that we do a deep dive into why we're so in such poor health, I guess is the best way to say it, and why we're spending so much. And that we can do over the course of the next year. But anyway, I think this is a good plan. And to Kellen's issue with the pharmacies, I think if I, as a county council person, hear complaints about our current plan, almost all of them revolve around the pharmacy and what they're either having to pay or the fact that it's a drug that's not covered. And that was a big issue with a number of our employees. So hopefully we can figure out something there, but I'm glad you didn't change that with the pharmacy, because that would have been very upsetting to the employees, I think. So anyway, very good job. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for PHP? They brought a few items just to look through as far as employee education. And obviously, we'll all be on site for open enrollment to educate employees, but didn't know if anyone had any questions today.
I have a question. So I was looking on the website at the LabCorp, and DeKalb County or DeKalb Hospital didn't show up. Can you not go to DeKalb for labs? Yeah, Parkview DeKalb.
For LabCorp?
Yeah, or just to get your labs done there.
You know.
So LabCorp, they have standalone offices.
Okay.
So there's several locations, all around Fort Wayne and that area. As far as DeKalb Hospital having LabCorp in the hospital.
Or just
they
labs in
might
general, it
not.
didn't show
I'm
up?
confident they do labs, but I
Okay.
don't know that a LabCorp
Yeah.
option would be
So
within
Morgan, I think what you're asking is like cost rather than, so LabCorp is, does the plan design show that LabCorp is no charge or is it a reduced charge?
It's reduced charge and
I
it's
think the
reduced
bigger
to the
question
group.
is can our employees go to Parkview, DeKalb, have their labs drawn, and are they gonna get
Okay.
charged higher, or are they gonna get charged the same?
So just because the
As going
negotiated
to
rates with Parkview are going to be higher than the negotiated rates with LabCorp, you will be able to get labs drawn there. It'll be deductible and co-insurance, so you'll be paying the full cost. And of course, that will be higher than LabCorp, which is a standalone facility. They have lower rates. So yeah, depending on what you're getting done, could be very well worth the drive to the nearest LabCorp. Yes.
And DeKalb Memorial used to have a contract with LabCorp. And after Parkview took over, they dropped it.
Yeah, back in the day, if you had a little card that said LabCorp and you went to DeKalb Memorial and they took a look and they drew it the same, but LabCorp would show up to pick it up. Now, there was one time I went in there and they go, "Oh, you're one of those."
Well, since I managed that program, it was a pain in the ass.
That's why they said, "Oh, you're one of those." Yeah.
Yeah.
If I could just say something really quickly, I know that I have personally had that issue with Parkview DeKalb, so I don't know if there's anything that we can do with the plan, and if not, that's fine. I did the same thing with the lab. That's probably my biggest, other than the prescriptions that I've heard employees complain about, is the cost of routine lab work. And so it looks like the closest place would be DuPont Road. Is there any way to facilitate that with Parkview DeKalb to where you can have a negotiation with their lab? Or is that not part of the design plan, it's a part of it? It's strictly LabCorp? Okay.
Yeah, and again, that'll come down to and again, through partnership with Apex and the HR department, will help communicate that as much as possible, that you've got this option. If you're willing to drive to DuPont, it's gonna save you X amount of dollars, or you can go right here. And again, for those that'll be on the high deductible health plan, I'm willing to bet they're gonna be more interested in driving the DuPont than having it done locally, if they understand how the plan works.
Yeah.
So that's where a lot of the employee education will come into place, and we're here to partner on that.
That's perfect. I stress that because I had that happen to me. And I
Yeah.
supposed to go to Parkview DeKalb and I got a $1,200 routine blood work bill from them.
Yeah.
So, anyway,
Didn't feel routine after that.
I didn't.
I did not.
Can you talk a little bit about telehealth that we discussed yesterday?
So we have two different options for telehealth. Currently, we have an option through Parkview Employer Solutions. That is based off of per call, so rather than paying a PEPM. So if you have a low utilization with your telehealth, the Parkview Employer Solutions would be a good option. The only downfall with this one is there's no reporting, so you basically just get a monthly invoice. You're not gonna know what specific member went to or you utilize that service. But it is great, especially if you're involved with like the Parkview MyChart and things like that. You do not have to be a Parkview patient or anything like that to utilize the service, but it's really just out of convenience. So, and then if there's any issues on getting logged on, they have a great team to help with that. Another option would be Call-A-Doc. That is at a PEPM fee, and as from a service standpoint, the Parkview Employer Solutions is a good option, but we do have that Call-A-Doc option as well.
Yeah, and for the end user, for the employee, for the member, that would be no cost. It's paid for outside of the plan. So that's another thing we would want to promote and educate on, because even on a high deductible health plan, they can still utilize it at no cost. So another great way to plug that into the high deductible health plan, for the members who want that lower cost option, they'll be able to utilize the telehealth services for free. Win for everybody. Win for the plan because we're paying a lot lower overall cost. Win for the employee, they're not paying anything and may not have to leave their house.
Or work.
Yeah. Yes. Or leave work, which is super important. So I'm gonna pull utilization, we just talked about this yesterday, I'm gonna pull utilization from our current plan to see how many employees are utilizing, and we'll be able to get that, an estimate on the cost, for you guys to plug into those premium equivalents. But since we are drawing the cost away from a higher cost solution, it's going to decrease our overall cost rather than increase, have employees utilizing that.
Lauren, just to confirm, is this still a broad network?
Yes,
So it'll
it is.
cover Lutheran-
PHP Freedom has both hospital systems and locally, all of it.
And nationwide, right?
Yeah, so there's a RAP network, a national RAP network. You guys use Encore? Yeah. So if you're outside of this area, which the PHP Freedom Network covers, you know, this area extremely well, but if you're going on a national trip or you have a child who's in college across the country, there's a RAP network in place to make sure we're still getting those low negotiated rates on those services.
And if it's an emergency, it's an emergency.
Yes, it's always covered. Yep.
We treat it like you were local. So if you were in Florida, and I want to be careful.
Anything else we should avoid?
Alligator attack.
Yeah.
Pelican comes through and just messes you up, you got to go to the emergency room. That's treated just like it would if you had gone to Parkview, or charged.
Charge the same. Okay, I just wanted to clarify.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep. Absolutely, great question.
And then if you have a kid, again, that's in college and say they're in California, we treat them like they're in network because there's no in-network option in that situation.
I have no more questions.
What else do you need from us today then?
That was it. I am gonna have a lot more materials for you to look at soon.
Where are we at on this percentage then of employee contribution overall?
So right now, where it is, until we get the two different plan designs put into a contribution spreadsheet to play with, really, these numbers are helpful as far as looking at, you know, what you're bringing in wellness-wise, but I wouldn't put too much concentration on this until we get those scenarios modeled out.
Okay.
The premium equivalents, we will have final numbers to look at once we look at plugging in the organ transplant policy and we finalize stop loss. We're still trying to get a tiny bit better deal. Maggie and I won't quit till we do it.
Anything
How
else?
soon? You know, we're under a time crunch, people. You know, our plan starts July 1. What is today? May 21st. We have a bunch of employees out there who need to have meetings, they need to be informed, they need all their educational opportunities. I cannot tell you how many of our employees say, it takes me more than a week to make this decision. And truly, you know, they need to take it home. They need to talk to people. And then to top it off, before we even get there, these guys have to take it back. They have to print out all the brochures. They have to print out our guides. So we need answers early. Did I make myself clear? Sorry.
We're running.
But I'm very emphatic about it, that HR payroll, we do not need to go crazy over this in June. We already do.
Well,
So
in
the
all
sooner-
honesty, the cost is gonna be how some people determine what they're going to use.
Absolutely, yep. So let's look.
Next Tuesday? Our next meeting's next Tuesday.
Yeah, next Tuesday. Yeah.
That's
Doable by chance?
Only reason I'm hesitating to commit to next Tuesday is I have personally, I have a surgery on the 20th, on Friday, and we're all off on Monday. I think I would feel more comfortable end of the week that week. Unsure what your schedules are. And I know we're working through those final pieces on stop loss and organ transplant too, so do you think the end of week next week? Okay. That we would have our firm premium equivalents to decide where you want to land within those, as well as the contribution spreadsheets with multiple scenarios.
Thursday with the New Year's board.
I don't know what all that entails, but like, the end of week next week basically means we're in June.
Yeah, and we're absolutely running simultaneously with implementation, so we're still picking that up and running with it. We're not holding off on anything moving forward while we're, working through these last pieces. So I still feel confident that we'll be able to get everything out to your employees before, obviously, the effective dates.
So when you say next week, are you meaning having everything put together or having a premium amount that we can?
Having the premium amounts firm and then employee contributions, several scenarios modeled out so you can land on how you want to with the premium.
So that doesn't even include you guys getting all of the paperwork printed and ready to roll?
Correct, that does not include that.
From the TPA side, I'll say we're in good position knowing how the plan design is now, knowing what that is, so we can get that built into our system. That's key. From a price, I hate to say pricing doesn't really matter to us. Just tell us what the number is and we can plug that in. It's more about the plan design and our IT folks being able to get that built. So when your members do call in, we know what the plan is.
Now, we can turn around things quickly, so if we wanted to look at, if we do make a decision on the 30th, as far as employee contributions, on the Apex side, I think we could look at the week of the 9th for meetings.
The 30th? Good.
Fine with that. You be able to do the 28th, 29th?
29th?
Yeah. It's usually up, yeah.
What do you think, Maggie?
I think we're pretty good on the stop loss piece. I'll connect with you after this. The
Okay.
organ transplant, I'm still working through, so.
Okay.
I'll push them.
Could probably get some estimates to
Yeah.
plug in for the premium equivalence sake. I think we could handle that.
So the 29th?
At 10?
Yeah. And,
Okay. Anything else? If you do think of something you want to see modeled out, we will, of course, look at the percentages that we discussed, which we can plug and play with in person. And then we'll also look at maybe some benchmarking as far as what is Indiana-based, what is typical, things like that. We'll play with a couple different scenarios. All right.
Are you guys positive you have drainage board on the 29th?
We usually have drainage board the same week we have commissioner meeting.
Okay. And you also have one this Thursday?
Yeah, that's one,
Special
that's a
one.
reconstruction, yeah. Yeah, that's why it's a little different.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, drainage board's the same week as commissioners.
mm-hmm. All right.
Okay, so what time did we decide?
Anything else?
All right.
No objection, I will adjourn the meeting.
Thank you.
Are adjourned. Thank you.